All right. Well, it's 9:05. We'll just get into it, and if we can just have questions along the way, because there's definitely a lot of stuff that we can talk about and hash out. So well, a few more people. All right. Well, this is going to be the agenda for today. Haven't made any fancy slides because we've just been haven't had the time to make fancy slides. To be honest, we can get straight to the point and go straight into actually looking at things. So actually, why don't we just first talk, Tim, about the GitCoin Grant? Because I think you said you're not going to be able to join us for the whole time. So should we just
Yeah,
touch
happy
on,
to.
yeah. Should we just touch on that first, perhaps?
Do you want to intro it and I can drive next, or do you just want me to
You
take it?
just go for it.
All right, cool.
You've
I
been
may share a screen then, actually.
yeah.
Give me a sec. Gitcoin. All right, yeah. Okay, there you go. I don't need to share a screen if you've got it. GM, everybody. This is super exciting for Loot. I think this is the first time this has really ever been done for an NFT community or a CCO community, or maybe even like such a permissionless DAO like Loot. What we're doing here is Loot as a sort of foundation for an ecosystem hasn't really taken many coordinated actions. And in some ways, that's been a feature, not a bug of Loot. Though it does look like the GitCoin site is pretty buggy right now, speaking of bugs. Maybe give it a hard refresh or something. Probably thinks you're a bot.
I get asked that a lot.
There you go. So what I want to say here is that Loot really hasn't taken many coordinated actions as Loot. Obviously, all the builders from Biblio to Genesis to Divine to banners to more and more and more. There's so many builders who've sort of emerged through the mist. Hyperloot, Genesis, the Loot Explorers, Exchange, the Rift, the Crypt, venture-backed companies to small projects, big projects, everything in between. One of the powerful things about Loot is that because it hasn't had a DAO and it hasn't had any funding for an ecosystem or any token or anything to fuel an ecosystem, it's forced anyone who builds on top of Loot to build sustainable models and to build sustainable castles, I call them, not just fireworks art projects or something, which is amazing too. But it's forced people to really think about how to build your own castle. To me, Biblioteca is the best example of that, of the Lootverse. It is fully sort of self-reliant and self-funding, and it's a whole ecosystem itself. That said, because Loot does have a royalty DAO, that's just the royalties from OpenSea sales and elsewhere. It's not huge, but it's there. It occurred to me that if we could unlock some of that treasury to help some builders just bootstrap into this world, to build more of the public goods, and even just like bootstrap some of their projects that, to a normal person, maybe have a day job, and while you love Loot, you can't give it all the time you want. That with a little bit of financial incentive as like a kickstart for a flywheel, that we could use some of that Loot treasury to just give out no strings attached grants to the ecosystem. And so I coordinated in the background for the past few months with some of the biggest Loot holders and the community around the ecosystem and Gitcoin to get us this level of attention and engagement in the Gitcoin ecosystem itself, to put out a proposal a few weeks ago that said, hey, let's fund a 75 ETH grant round for the Lootverse. It got approved, as I think it got approved unanimously, which was amazing. And then we just kicked off this 75 ETH matching pool for Lootverse projects, both public goods and also kind of early stage projects. The goal here is give grants to things that bring the Lootverse to life and give grants to things that advance the Lootverse forward. And that can be a really creative open canvas for lots of different things. You can see that there's already 12 grants approved. I know there's 2, 3, 4 in the pending pipeline already, so there'll probably be like 20, 25 grants when all is said and done. It just went live yesterday, maybe 2 days ago. There you go. It really thinks you're a bot. It just went live yesterday or 2 days ago. We've had, I think, a couple hundred people donate so far, which is really cool. And you can see how the power of a matching grant works. Like, let's look at this one, for example, up at the top. This is a group who wants to do a public domain CCO tabletop RPG Dungeons and Dragons game for the Lootverse. And they've gotten $400 of grant money from 17 contributors. And then from that, the loot matching pool is matching another $5,000 on top of that. So when this is all said and done, maybe those numbers double, triple, quadruple for them. And for a team just getting started, that's really meaningful. Again, it's not supposed to be the ongoing funding model, and it's not supposed to replace the idea of building sustainable castles and building sustainable projects. But especially for public goods, if you go back, Loaf, there's a couple here that are public goods. Like Andrew's doing a community manager one. Loot Foundation is a public good. Even the Banners project at the top left is a kind of a public good for the Lootverse. It's going to be a community engagement place for people to hang out with each other in the Lootverse. Stuff like this, just being able to use the loot treasury to bootstrap it and support it and give people just a little bit of fuel, I think it's going to go a really long way. It's also the first time it's ever been done within the Lootverse, and I think beyond the Lootverse. So it feels to me like a really exciting experiment just to see what would it look like to do a little bit of coordinated action. Loot is not really a DAO. Loot is more of like a foundation for an ecosystem that just sits there quietly, like the earth underneath all of our feet. But this is a moment where we're saying, hey, why don't we take a little bit of coordinated action to surface some fuel up and out of the earth and see if we can help bring some more people into our world and also support the people who are already building. I don't see the Biblio one in here, so Loaf, we should tag the Biblio one with Lootverse so it shows up here too.
Yes.
But Biblio should be front and center, and then once we do that, we should have this whole community pop in, and you have to sign up for a GitCoin account, but it's free. It takes 2 seconds. And then you can donate whatever you want. You can donate $1, you can donate $10, you can donate an ETH if you want to. And then the idea is that through quadratic funding,
it's like a signal.
Yeah, it's like exactly a signal that then mathematically calculates how the 75 ETH gets distributed across all the projects involved. And it's hopefully the first of many. The Loot Treasury doesn't have a super sustainable way of bringing revenue in yet. But I do think one day as the Lootverse thrives, projects will probably start to tribute back to the Lootverse DAO and to the Lootverse Treasury. And so hopefully we can keep this going, maybe even every season. GitCoin does these in seasons, so once a month or once every 2 months you could do something like this. And if it works, amazing. And if it doesn't work, we learned a lesson and gave out some free grants. But honestly, even if you stopped it today, I think the projects on here are already really thankful and really energized by what's happening here.
Yeah, I think it's great. It's definitely going to work in some aspect, and also to note, I mean, it can really be, you can make a proposition to do anything. If you've got an idea for a project, you can create a grant and potentially get funded. Could even be like a utility to play Realms on StarkNet, some kind of StarkNet gaming utility within the Lootverse, or whatever really. So.
Yeah, definitely. Anybody on the call, if you're working on something that feels like you want to get some more attention on it and maybe some a no strings attached grant, this is an awesome moment for it. And since I have the mic, I guess I got to plug my own 2 projects here. In some ways, the whole Lootverse feels like my project. That we all own the Lootverse together. But individually, I've been spending a ton of time steering this Open Quill Foundation forward, and our first project is the Genesis Scrolls, which is going to be a book of short stories from the Lootverse published on chain and then eventually probably manifested up through, a physical book, because I want a physical Lootverse book on my shelf. Look at that awesome art that Fabian's made there. But then 2, probably in the form of some sort of on-chain NFT. I'll leave that till later because I don't want to overpromise anything, but we're excited about what this could become. And I've been spending a lot of time just thinking about the lore system for the Lootverse, as you guys all know. The way that lore can all fit together, and the way that we can really bring the stories of the Lootverse to life so that we can all weave them back into the games and projects and future stories that we all build.
Yeah.
I think that gaming and stories go together hand in hand, and that's the magic and power of the Lootverse is that the creation of the stories is also a game, and the games we are building will end up with on-chain actions that can turn into stories. And the games we're building also have stories and storylines and characters built right inside them. I mean, even Biblioteca with the Bibliopedia is going to be a place for stories as well. So it's all interconnected. And yeah, I don't want to scoop this yet. You can show this later, but if you love that dream and you really do want to support no strings attached grants to writers to have the community and others write stories of the Lootverse, please donate. Even a dollar is a signal here. Please donate to this Genesis Scrolls Open Quill program. And then the other is Loot Foundation. I feel like that's already gotten a lot of love, so I don't need to do much here, but we continue to push Loot Foundation forward as just a place to have as much of the foundational lore as possible of the Lootverse, so that it's a welcoming place for others to get involved, and sort of like a welcome committee, an asynchronous welcome committee, so that anybody who pops in and says, "What is this crazy thing y'all are doing together?" Loot Foundation is a canonical guidebook to guide them through this world. But there's some amazing stuff in here. There's an art project. There's a physical art project. There's a couple of game projects in here. There's two different music projects. Actually, three different music projects in here.
Yeah, this one's where I think it's a 1337 user.
Yeah.
Lord, he's been contributing to the Atlas, and this is him and his friend. Yeah.
Yep.
Zabnet.
Yeah.
And he's actually working on building this into the Atlas at the moment, actually. So he's going to make a little player for it, and it'll probably be up here or something, and he'll be able to like choose which. It'll like cycle through the songs to begin with, and then like I don't know, we might play them when you hit a specific realm or something. I don't know. It really depends on the UX of what's going on at this point. But yeah, these guys have done the great thing with these.
I hadn't heard that, but I love that idea. It's like the background music to the Lootverse, and having that manifest itself onto the Atlas itself and in the game is so cool.
Yeah, exactly. That's the plan. I think he's pretty close. Should be up there in the next it should be this week. Well, for the first 3 tunes anyway, and then we just keep adding them as they get made.
Man, the power of open source and CCO, huh?
It's good tangent then. Just talking about we may as well just talk about Bibliopedia quickly then. And where we're at with it, and how Genesis Scrolls could fit in to it, and where they could be injected into the on-chain. So we have we've talked about this for the past couple months, and it's been a work in progress, but there's been quite a few interesting little things to overcome, and it's in its kind of internal testing phase at the moment. And the next phase will be opening up to I don't know, we just need to battle test it a bit more, and then we'll probably deploy this. But the way this works is, this was actually, I think it was brainchild of you, Tim, from quite a while ago, and then it kind of evolved into this, and it's been a few people have injected quite a bit of stuff along the way, and Abrax has kind of engineered the Arweave and StarkNet elements of it. But the way it works is, it's a little abstract right now, the UX of it, just because we're getting the back end right. But picture a Wikipedia style UX where there are deep links to specific assets, and the assets are the NFTs, or it could be a token, or it could be whatever. And so all of these things are actually connected in this on-chain scroll, which you can create. And when you do this, what's the latest syntax to actually add it? You can add a realm like this, for example, and when you when you create this scroll, it will then create this link. I'm not going to create this now.
$.
Is it a dollar sign at the start? Like that? Could be there. I think it's that way.
Legend.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, you create a link like this, and when you can create the realm, the order, the crypt, the lord and lady when they come online, the wonder, basically any asset that is any contract an NFT or any part of the atlas, you can deep link them. And so then when this is like the preview of the scroll, when you click on the link, it'll actually pop up the sidebar of that, or it will fly you to that part of the atlas, for example. And the way this works from a technical point of view is that when you create the scroll, it stores. So this is all like Markdown, which is just like a scripting. It's a scripting language basically. And this will all get stored on Arweave, which is a decentralized storage network. And the actual point of it, like the actual scroll ID, actually gets stored on StarkNet. And so to create a scroll, it costs a little bit of gas on StarkNet, but not much, a few cents. And then this scroll is basically permanently deployed on chain. It's not like running on Ethereum as in like encoded as an SVG. It's running on Arweave, which is another network which is growing really rapidly, and it's a really really interesting network. So yeah, you can imagine, and anyone can write these stories, and you can imagine you're thinking of like Wikipedia, where you just navigate around and you click links and you just go to next bit, and you go next, and you just click links all around the place. That's the kind of vision that will happen. And so there'll be all these scrolls, and you'll be able to trace stories back and forth through them. So we're almost there with this. This has been being built in the background whilst we've been building everything else as well. It's taken longer than expected because there's been a few technical things to overcome, but it's almost there. So, which is
So it's a $sign and then curly brackets and then the code and then the ID of, for example, realms and then comma.
I like that.
Oh no, sorry. So it's either one or realms. So so you can just
it doesn't matter.
realms
It will probably.
This is
doesn't matter.
good.
Oh
This
my
is
God,
good user testing on the fly.
Yeah,
huh?
yeah. We can make it. We can make it simpler. We can make it simpler.
realms,
Yeah.
comma,
Yeah.
22.
Nice.
Like that. Yeah. Then you can just do.
No, the name should pop up as well.
Yeah. As you can see, it's
Yes.
it's still a work in progress. But we can. I don't know. We might this syntax. We might we can make it anything. It's just currently set like this. But that's how you.
realm.
That's how you create.
Try
a link.
realm instead of realms. It doesn't update.
Anyway,
It's all
doesn't
good.
matter.
We know it will work, and this is some good.
It'll work.
Just a commentary here on how cool it is to see this. This is a asynchronous, decentralized product team coming together to create this, and it was a dream of mine to build a platform for like all the notes and scraps and lore and local. If I'm in lore form, like every note published in the local library of every realm across the realms. And to see this come to life is just so energizing. I've also been working on a divine NFT project that will be sort of the curated stories brought to life with higher fidelity content. I think it's going to work together really nicely with this. That this is like you said the Wikipedia, and then some stuff from here that all of us go, wow, that is incredible. Somebody wrote a whole story here. We can then use the fuel of the Lootverse and the concept of this divine NFT thing to bring it to life and bring energy across the Lootverse to the best stuff here. So kudos to the team for bringing this, getting this out the door or almost out the door.
Yeah,
I think it looks going to be really exciting.
Yeah, I mean it looks pretty like simple, but there's a lot of guts to this. And I actually have never seen an Arweave StarkNet on-chain wiki that exists. So this is actually one of the first things. This is the first of its kind. There was actually someone at the hackathon when in Amsterdam actually created like it was like a forum using a similar mechanic, and they were in the finalists. So there's a lot of demand, a lot of interest for this type of stuff, which was interesting because we both arrived at the same conclusion. Abrax actually built this before those guys did. So, but yeah, so that's the status of Bibliopedia. It'll it's internal testing. Hopefully, we can get it into public testing by the end of like this week or next week. Cool. Well, we can move on from there then. So, update on StarkNet specifically. I've been talking with them a lot, like directly with their engineers and their product managers, and it's evolving very fast. They still have a lot of optimizations to do, and it's still in an alpha state. And I've been telling them like we're close to this game being production ready. What do you suggest we do? And they're like, yeah, we want to work with you, whatever status the network is at, to get you up and running as soon as you're ready. So we actually have them. We'll actually have like a product manager and like a engineer to help us, launch this game when the time comes. Even if the network is in alpha state. And like they still have a lot of optimizations to do on the network, which is a good thing, to be honest. And the early signs of it working as expected is really there. And everybody knows that I'm the biggest Stark bull, but it is really coming together fast, and I'm even more bullish on it, if that's even possible. So yeah, we can do questions about that at the end. But next thing is investment. So I have been talking in the Discord about I've been talking to a bunch of interested parties. These are top tier kind of crypto VC funds, and just there's actually a lot of community members who are realm lords that really just want to see the project succeed, and they're interested in potentially being part of the round too. So there's a lot of interest there, but we are still a pure DAO. There's no organization, like there's no corp structure anywhere. So it does come with its challenges. A lot of other NFT projects that are building games actually have a traditional corporate structure, so they can sell equity relatively easily, which makes it easy for investment to come along. Now we haven't done that path because we have taken the point of view that we want this entire thing to be community owned, and so it does present a slightly more challenging fundraising opportunity, but it doesn't mean it's it's not impossible. It's just it's how we structure it. So any investment that we do will obviously have to get approved by the DAO as well, because we will be selling the DAO's Lord's allocation in that investment. So yeah, there won't be anything that will happen in the background. I'm obviously talking to people, and I'm not going to name them because I don't think that's the right thing to do right now. But any actual investment will obviously have to still get passed by the DAO. But in saying that, we do have runway right now for at least 12 months, probably more. And we do have a path to revenue. We're not running this as a crazy high growth startup where you have massive burn rate and we need to have just continuous funding, seed rounds every couple months just to catch up to our burn rate to try and capture market share. We actually do have a path to revenue, and we're very well advanced in that area. And some of these things we've talked about, like a noun style auction of an asset. Now that won't be a realm, but it could be something else. For example, it could be like a I don't know, Scooty, you had a good idea the other day. It was a Redbeard. But if anyone has any good ideas around that, I think the noun style auction, I think a lot of projects are going to start more adopting it because it's a genius. It's probably one of the most genius things to come out of the whole Web3 in the last 2 years. And then we also have the our marketplace. Now, actually, I'll probably touch on this because we should discuss this. And there's no hard decision made just now, but the market is in a lull right now, which we can use it to our benefit. And there's always lessons to be learned in the open market of what other projects have done and have struggled with. And I think when we initially designed the whole marketplace, we were like, all right, let's do everything denominated in Lords because it'll drive demand for Lords, and that's a good thing. But the catch of that is, well, then the DAO's entire revenue stream is just denominated in Lords, which means that the DAO will have to sell Lords on the open market, which will just keep putting downward pressure on it. And I think pricing volatile assets in a volatile currency is just not a good idea. And it's been seen in the market that I don't think it is. And so by denominating our NFT market in ETH, we get hard revenue. So we get ETH, and with that ETH we get we have the option to either buy back Lords from the open market, or buy back and burn it. But we can also just sell the ETH and for USD and keep funding the project that way without actually putting continuous downward pressure on Lords. So we get the benefit of really both. So I think that's definitely worthy for a discussion. But I'm definitely in the basket of ETH is how we should denominate NFTs on the marketplace, and also it's probably an easier entry into the ecosystem as well for new participants, because they don't have to then buy Lords, but so they can and ultimately the DAO's still getting the ETH revenue, right? So it's just we're clipping it. But the AMM will still be denominated in Lords, is my opinion, because it's like still so tied to the game. And then in-game purchases with Lords, that's another revenue stream. Lords and Ladies collection, that'll be another revenue stream. So yeah, in a nutshell, we've got a lot of paths for revenue. It's not like we just need continuous funding and that gets spent. Like we just need to get to a point where we can be self-fulfilling. And I don't think the investment needs to be a significant amount that we do in this over-the-counter round. But yeah, there'll probably be more updates on that, and we can talk about this at the end. And also, Starkware is actually interested in funding the DAO as well. So that's a good signal. All right. Well, it's time to go into the actual alpha. Well, it's not quite the alpha yet. This is the UI. We're still working out a bunch of things, and it's like anything in software, we're trying to iterate fast, and solve bugs, and bugs just exist in software because there's a lot of code going on. There's a lot of moving parts. So I'll just go over like where we're at, how it currently works, the bits that we're still chipping away at and tuning. Well, I mean everything we're really tuning, to be honest. But yeah, so this is the current build. This is running on my local right now, and this is connected to StarkNet, Alpha Testnet, the Girly network, and it's connected to our indexer. And so whenever you do an action on this, it sends it, it sends a transaction to StarkNet, and then StarkNet emits the values as events, and then the indexer captures those values, and then those values are displayed in this client. So this is the current account page, and you can see here this is the feed that currently exists. So you can see here I wrecked a few people. It's just a realm faucet for the alpha testing. You just mint a realm easily. See here we've updated some of the design of the Atlas bits, and also this is like we've got the military indexed now, so this is like the actual army that exists on the realm. You can see how strong it is. Obviously you're gonna have a lot of questions about how this actually works, and it's definitely being fine-tuned, and I'll go into it in a second. So yeah, so these are all the current settled realms. It's just being tested with the core devs at the moment. Let's see, these are my realms. No, I'll go to Kinband because he's been wrecking people. So this is the current like realm dashboard, and so from here you can, it's all total management of your realm. You see, I just claim my resources. I click this. You can't see that thing that pops up, but that's a thing to sign, and I can harvest my resources that way. I might just actually harvest it and let the transaction go. Yeah, so there's been a lot. There's been a lot of work to get to where we are right now. But we've done a lot of the heavy lifting. Like we've built the tech stacks, we've connected up the contracts, and so now we're at this point where we've built this solid foundation. Now it's time to like tune it, and make it smooth. So I'm just claiming. So when you hit a transaction, we've got this little transaction cart, and they all appear here. And so you can see, I'll probably add more context in the next iteration, but these are the current pending transactions. This little pinger there. You can see here, realm can be attacked. So currently it's like each day is 30 minutes. So, and currently the someone had a question about like how long is the cooldown period. Currently it's at 24 hours. But I am starting to think that that should be reduced to like 8 hours. I guess the funnest part about this game is raiding people. So we want to lean into that and make it easy and efficient for people to raid one another, because it's the funnest part. So let's make it easy. You see here, you got the happiness, culture, food, population. These are all the buildings that you can build. They all impact your population, culture, food levels, which then in turn affect your happiness. And they'll do other things too. These are the history of the realm. So this is all the people that I've wrecked. Then go and pillage them, plunder them again. Now, if I want to go and build an army for this realm, I can do this. And this is like my this is the armory. This is how I can create an army. So I want a couple watchmen, guard captain, maybe a couple knights. And so you can see here, there's a few little bugs, but you see here, this is the total statistics of this squad that I'm about to build and the total cost of it. These costs obviously are like, temporary. There's still a lot to, fine tune on this, and this is what we'll probably figure out in the alpha, where some holes are. This is a very complicated system. Like there's only so many Excel models you can do. Ultimately, you just need to run it and let people try to break it. So yeah, once you've done this, you muster the troops and you assign this army to your squad. You see here, there's like the in-depth squad stats, which I'm assuming we're going to have to tweak as well. Just like in StarCraft, you have to tweak costs and damage. So this is something that we just need a battle test too. So the way combat works, which is probably one of the biggest questions, and this is actually the most complicated piece of the entire contract stack, is Milan did the hard work doing this. And if anyone's actually super interested in Cairo and how this combat works on chain, drop into the builders chat, and I don't know, we can explain it out. But from a high level point of view, it works like this. You have your tier 1 troops. So you got 16 of them. You got 8 tier 2 troops. And so they all have their own stats. This. And when you hit raid vault, you can see here, I'll probably wreck them. When you hit raid vault, it initializes the transaction, obviously, and if you've built a couple of buildings, you actually have like a surf army that have pitchforks, and they do very minimal damage. But the attacker actually has to overcome them before they get to your actual army. And so in that sense, the defender always has a slight advantage. So as an attacker, you need to build a bigger army than just a pure army against the, like, you know, whatever you're attacking. But when you roll, when you hit raid, it basically rolls a dice between tier 1 and tier 2, like the tier 1. So it starts like this, and it just goes back and forth until let's just say Watchman rolls a dice and does 100 hit points. It'll wipe out like 5 of the squires. And then we'll get to this squire, and then it's this squire's turn, and then he might roll 100 and it'll wipe out another 5. And it basically just goes back and forth until there's no one left. And then whoever's left wins the battle. And so, like, that, in a sense, sounds simple, but there's a lot going on, and there actually is a lot of complexity about and the composition of your army you need to choose. And, you know, like anything with software, once we wrote this combat module, we realized, well, we can make it better. So, you know, there are plans to make it slightly more dynamic, meaning, you know, like you could do multiple attacks in the same battle. But to begin with, we're just trying to nail down the, you know, single attack, and then we'll work on making it more complicated. It's very hard to start with something. You can always improve things, basically. And then once you've harvested your resources, you can go to the bank. This is and you can trade your resources on the open market. Which this is currently, so these values are getting cached by the indexer every 10 seconds. So, you know, when the market's thriving, we'll be able to graph these, and, you know, Grug will be able to do TA on Dragonhide when the time comes, which will be pretty sweet. And there also is a path where we can include other game resources into this market, if we choose to. It'd be fairly straightforward to do. StarkNet offers quite a nice a way to, like, wrap tokens up to allow them to be sold on a market like this. So, you know, we could wrap up, you know, some of Dope War's drugs or something into this, or we could wrap up some of Influence's Sway token, or anything really. Any other game asset that we could that we want to trade on this, and then you could trade Mithril for Coke from Dope Wars, which would be amazing. Yeah, so this is connected. LP Merchant, we're left this to last. Been focusing on other bits. But yeah, as you can see, like, it's the guts and the heavy lifting is basically there. We're fine tuning it to get it ready for, you know, an open, well, closed alpha, not just devs. Did I go through everything? Oh yeah, one thing I actually want to touch on. There's been a lot of chat around the Relic Wars concept, and, you know, building this game, you know, it is quite abstract, and, like, you know, I think blockchain games in general, they're, you know, you're emitting so much value, like, every day. Like, that's the nature of them. Like, you know, you own the asset, you make the transaction, you pay a little bit of gas, but it means you get the thing. Now, you know, as a game designer, you know, we need to convince people to keep spending the resources within the game. And, you know, raiding is a lot of fun. And, you know, what we've built here is like this kind of macro base layer of a game. But it's by no means the final game. And I've been dropping a few tweets about, like, how the best games are cooperative and, you know, highly competitive. And so one of the things that's emerged in the past, like, month is this idea of a relic war, which I'm really, really bullish on the idea, because in a nutshell, you know, the mechanics still need to be tuned and whatnot. But in a nutshell, the way a relic war would work is each realm. This might change as well. Like, each realm will have a relic, and so this will be like a soulbound token in a sense. Or actually, it wouldn't be a soulbound token. It would just be like it'd be some token that you can't trade. basically. The only way to get it is to actually raid people for it. So let's say Kinban raids Num, and he wins. Kinban will then steal the relic and would hold the relic. Now Numkun wouldn't actually have the relic anymore, and the only way that he can get the relic back is if he attacks Kinban directly and wins, or someone else from the Order of the Fox attacks Kinban and can get it back for him. And so, that's a simple mechanic. But what that would do is it would push people to, coordinate off-chain to, win this relic war. And so what we can do is then we can do a timestamp of how long Kinban holds the relic, and we can do a running leaderboard of the winning order of how many relics they hold that are not their own. And so that's a really interesting metagame that we're exploring. That we'll probably post a kind of a brief of it this week and get feedback. But that's just like one idea of creating a deeper layer on top of this, and that will be its own module. And so if anybody else has a module that they're think would be awesome, that would create cooperative or competitive gameplay, bring up the discussion, because that's how we keep expanding this game and keep creating depth. We will I don't think DeFi is fun, personally. So I'm trying to. We need to create deeper meaning for these on-chain games. I think every on-chain game kind of suffers from this. We want to create dense, deep gameplay. So yeah, that's I think I covered everything there. We can probably just. I've talked about Bibliopedia. I'll just chip these last two things up, and then we can go into the AMA. So we've started to actually any dev that's kind of jumped in has found it quite hard, and we know that because it's been it's been a lot of work in progress. So we've created this dev docs, which is it's a work in progress right now. And so any developers on the call that want to contribute to it or are keen to give feedback on how it should be structured, welcome all that. And then Squiddy's been working on this the guide. So this is a guidebook to the game, and currently it's got a bunch of the different archetypes that can play the game, and you can kind of see which type you you respond to, and this can be your type. It kind of explains how you can play the game like that.
Yeah, I'll just jump in here as well.
Yeah.
It's a good place for new players to jump in as well, because it can be pretty overwhelming. So
yeah,
this is a work in progress. Obviously, this is just kind of the obvious kind of strategies that people will take at the start. But then this is going to be completely community driven. There'll probably be 3 to 5 mods from the community lords managing it as well, and people can submit their own strategies. Create their own name for it, go down in history. And the mods will approve them and then add them to it. So it'll just be an ongoing guide on how to play the game in the spirit of CCO.
Yeah, exactly. So anyone can contribute to this. It's a GitHub open source GitHub repo, and anyone can make a proposition to do a PR to add another game style if they've discovered one. So yeah, I think that's basically everything. You can just jump into the AMA now.
Yeah, we've had a lot, so it's
pretty dense.
Yeah. But
yeah, anyone got any questions about anything that I just covered?
Surely someone wants to talk about the UI.
Huh.
I mean, you did,
maybe I explained it clearly.
You did go into some serious depth. Or any feedback or anything.
Yeah. What about you, Grog?
So when's the closed beta going to be launched?
Well, it's probably going to be a closed alpha to begin with. We're really kind of close to it just fully working. There's some bugs we're working out, some final bugs. The indexer, like, we're catching a few quirks that aren't getting indexed quite right. But I mean, I'm really hoping within the next like couple of weeks, it'll be ready, potentially sooner. And it'll be definitely a closed alpha. So like, we want people that are really going to actually try and test it hard and break it and give like valuable feedback. And then probably after that, then we do like an open season for like a few weeks with whoever wants to join, and then we can battle test it even harder. Yeah, it comes down to like like it's in all of us best interest to like really make this game tight before we launch it. And I know it's taken longer than expected, but there's been a lot more engineering challenges than I first predicted. And I guess that's the nature of it.
Love, there are a few questions in the chat, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Goji
Yeah.
Bears asked in the attack module.
Wait, where do I get to the chat? Oh, open chat.
Yeah, that looks good.
Is Arweave multi-chain? It doesn't need to be. Oh,
I think
wait,
Red's
then
at
I'll-
start. Go to
I-
the bottom. Go to Goji Bear.
Thanks, Joseph. Goji Bear, in the attack module, is there a time aspect? If I launch an attack against another realm, do they have time to sort out a defense? Not really. Like, it'll just happen in the block time. Like,
you got to get your defense ready for the realms you want to protect.
yeah, there's no like time after you've been it. Like, you need to, you can see here. So if this realm had been attacked, then there'll be like a timer here. Basically, it's vulnerable in like 20 minutes. And so if this is your realm, then you better build up a defense, or you better hope you have a defense. Otherwise, you'll get attacked.
Yeah, an interesting aspect of it would be when someone's just put a transaction in to build their army and it just goes through as someone raids them.
Yeah, we're gonna try and have as much the data will be as up to date as possible.
There'll always be. I mean, I guess that's just a bit of fog of war, really.
Yeah, there'll be a little bit of fog of war.
I've got a couple of questions.
Sure.
First one, with the when we're gonna deploy on even the alpha on StarkNet, how long is it gonna be the confirmation time for each transaction?
Well, it's kind of varied at the moment. Some take it's about 20 seconds right now.
Okay.
Some take a bit longer. It kind of depends. Yeah, it's definitely not as fast as it's going to be right now.
Mm-hmm. And also, what's the progress with the session key with Argentines?
Julian from Argent said that they are. They actually may have updated it. I haven't talked to him since StarkNet did an upgrade 3 days ago or something. Which typically broke a lot of code, so we had to rewrite a little bit. But I think he said it was going to be in 0.9, which is now it's at 0.9. So I'm pretty sure it's either ready to go or about to be ready to go. So it's basically done. He's already shared the code how it will work. It's kind of like this plugin system. I know your Sam, who's doing the guilds, he's been talking to him as well, and I think Sam is kind of rethinking the guild structure to potentially try to leverage the plugin architecture that Argent's done. So yeah, it's coming along.
Nice.
Yeah, but you can see you can just queue up these transactions. I think there's a slight bug in the React package at the moment. I don't think it's been updated to receive. But you can go around the app and click all these things and just queue all the transactions up and then they'll just process. One thing actually, I don't know if maybe I haven't talked to it on a call. Maybe I talked to it on a Jangle or something. But the other this is what I'm calling the broadband moment, it kind of clicked with me in the last couple of weeks, is that what you can do with StarkNet, because it has account abstraction, and account abstraction just means you can have like a smart contract wallet. It means that, let's explicitly give an example. So let's say you want to harvest your resources, build an army, or maybe harvest resources on a bunch of realms, build an army on a bunch of different realms, make a few trades. You could now, with account abstraction, actually queue up all these trades. So let's say when you click this, this is still to be built. It will appear here in transaction cart. So it'll be little transactions like army to build, army to build, army to build, blah, blah, blah. And then a button. And so when you hit finalize, the Argent will pop up with a transaction, and it will submit all those transactions in one block. And so it's like a batch transaction of the entire of what you're trying to do. And now the reason why that's so crazy is that it essentially increases the throughput of the blockchain by 10-100x, because you can submit 10 transactions in one in one signing, which is effectively increasing the data throughput massively. And you can only do that because of account abstraction. ETH might support it down the line. I think after the merge, they potentially have an EIP for it, but I'm not sure this would even be possible. And so when you when you buy one of these things, like let's just say you do a trade, right? And when you pay the gas to make a trade like this, you're basically paying the blockchain to update your balance of obsidian, wood, stone, coal, and copper. And so that's a cost to it. And it also updates your balance of lords because it costs lords. It's changing the lords balance. That's the gas cost, right? But when you submit 10 trades at once that all adjust your obsidian, wood, stone, coal, copper, the way StarkNet works is it just it overwrites those the storage 10 times, but it doesn't charge you 10 times. And so you can basically do 10 transactions if you're changing the same state for basically the cost of one transaction. So I think that's really actually going to open up a whole new application layer that's going to be possible, just like what broadband did to the internet, which is a really interesting quirk that it's only really kicked me in the past a few weeks. So yeah, you combine that with session keys, and then suddenly you have an app that feels instant, but it's still all on chain.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's super interesting. I think it's like I've never seen anything like that before, and I think probably
Nothing
because
exists like it.
yeah, I think probably because Ethereum doesn't really even allow something like that to happen because of the security and architecture. But yes,
Exactly. Well, yeah, it's all comes down to the account abstraction, because then StarkNet basically just processes all those transactions in the same block, and because StarkNet's not constrained to it can ramp up its CPU and just run on it doesn't matter, StarkNet's not can run its execution on a really powerful server, and you can just keep ramping that up. So you can just keep increasing the throughput, but you're still settling everything back to Ethereum. So it's basically it makes Solana totally redundant. The one interesting thing about Solana is that the increased throughput, but obviously they have to sacrifice security for that, right? Whereas with this, you get the increased throughput, but you keep the security. But yeah, I think that simple premise will click with people pretty soon. Once it's kind of once StarkNet finds its ground and people understand account abstraction a bit better.
Okay. And one last thing, I saw in the agenda that there was at the very end, if I'm not wrong, there was a game guide. What about that?
Yeah, that's this. Squiddy went through it.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean you can contribute to it as well, man. This is a link hasn't been updated, but this is just like a GitHub repo. It's a simple to use. You just write in Markdown, and this will be like a totally player-driven guide to playing Realms. And so there's some like, the farmer, the defender, the raider, the guildmaster. Like the idea is that we create different archetypes for different people because everybody plays games slightly differently. And so we want to explain how you can play the game, for your archetype. And this can be like, tips and tricks and that people discover along playing the game. They're all things that we don't even figure out. Just like in every game, someone is going to try and break it. So,
Interesting. One very last thing, okay?
yeah.
Well, since obviously like most of the code is open source, like what about maybe creating some kind of like bounties for people to do some kind of like tooling
Yeah.
services, like for example like maybe like a I don't know like a realms builder simulator, or even like a fight simulator. I think that's going to be quite important.
Yeah. Well, I'll just touch on. So the plan for this, obviously, this is like super basic, and we know that, right?
Yeah.
Like this isn't the final thing. Like this is just this is like a dev build. Like it's going to have shine, polish on it, whatnot. Firstly, like, just a note, Amaro started full time a couple days ago. So he's full time on Realms now. The first thing he's doing is just revamping the Realms like website, and so he's doing a bunch of illustration for it to be like the entry point to people into the game. But then he's going to get straight onto game assets and the PFP collection. But yeah, probably the first iteration for this will be like there's all these different troops, right? So we're going to design these different troops in like portrait images, and these will be like the concept images of all the troops, and then they'll be displayed here, and it'll make this UI nicer. But after that, what we want to do is turn this actually into like a 3D battleground. So like it'll be like a 3GS screen with like it'll be like your army with whatever you've got in it, like little guys standing around, versus the army that you're attacking. So that'll be super cool. But in terms of like bounties, yeah, I'm actually funny you say that. I've been talking with Redbit about this as well. It's something that we definitely need to do. I just should maybe we can just do a DAO vote. Be like, all right, we want to dedicate 10 ETH to bounties, and then we do like some quadratic funding after they've been proposed. We could do something like that. I don't know. What do you suggest?
I don't know.
Yeah. So I mean, we just want. I mean, I'm all for doing that, and as a DAO, we can just why don't we just do a vote? Be like, all right, we're going to dedicate. I mean, we can start with 5 ETH, for example, and then have people make propositions, and then they get funded that way. I mean, it's just kind of like the GitCoin thing.
I think also like the community can come up with like some ideas, maybe like that we just like don't think about it. But like I think definitely obviously when the game is gonna get to the full depth and like all the layers and all the little things that they're gonna matter, like people will want to kind of like simulate some certain outcomes, and just like even just like try and see how much they can earn, like for example resources per like X amount of like epochs or like days, like based on like what builds they have, because obviously you can actually like start planning like well in advance what like where you want to allocate your resources, especially like in this type of games where like resource management is basically like basically the base of everything. So, and that kind of like allows you to either like focus, for example, like in those different like archetype of like players. I might prefer like to max like some certain resources that allows me to maybe like build my troops earlier than other like people. Then people, they rather like being farmers and then just defend. So I think that's why it's important.
Yeah. Well, so there is one thing we haven't done the docs for it, but the way the indexer is basically an open API at this point. So like, oh, here it is. So this is I don't know any devs out there, but this is like how you can fetch information from the indexer.
Okay.
And so basically anybody was like that knows how to use an API could build their own experience with this information. So they could build a optimal build guide, or they could even write something that I don't know, something that we haven't done, for example. Like all we've done with this Atlas is like connect up to the indexer, and obviously then connect to the StarkNet, and we've created the interface. But like anyone now can actually make the interface because all the information is open. Like nothing in here is like closed. It's all open source still, and all the information is coming from the indexer. So I'm pretty sure this is what Influence did a few months ago. They had their API open. So I think they just did a bounty program too. But yeah, I'm all for that, man. Maybe we should just
Yeah, we can brainstorm something. Even like if it's just API, maybe we can even use the Squire bot to do that. Can it be possible?
Squire for
To do some like this kind of like calculation in like API calls at the end of the day. It's like,
no, definitely, it's Squire. That's perfect for Squire. Yeah.
yeah.
We're gonna get the Squire bot to post all the battles as well into
Yeah.
Discord, which would be sweet. So it'll post like something like this. We'll post it on Twitter as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say Twitter.
Yeah,
Can't wait for people like with Dragonite to be raided. It's gonna be a mess.
Yeah. So, but I mean, it's great, like marketing, and like it's really good engagement. Like this is the type of marketing that's great. I think it's like it's like a bot that just posts when someone gets wrecked.
Yeah, you should put like the same emojis that like a BitMEX Rec does. I don't know if you've ever seen the bot on Twitter. It's pretty funny.
Yeah. I was gonna do like the Doom guy that's like all bloodied face here, but I don't know. Maybe we do something else. Maybe do like a bloodied knight. But yeah, like this is the type of stuff that Amaro is gonna like come in and do the game assets for. Now that he's obviously this is just this is still an alpha build. But the art can come. Hard part is doing the guts, which we've done all the heavy lifting now. Now it's like let's tune the game and make it make it as good as possible. And make it as fun as possible. And we've been doing everything in the open, right? Like so, traditional game you'd be totally closed until you launch your alpha. Like we're doing everything open. So, did we get everything right on the first go? Well, no one ever gets anything right the first time. So, but I mean, we'll find out a lot in the alpha. But yeah, I'm really bullish on this like metagame that we can build on top of the of this kind of base layer. Yeah. Well, we covered a lot. There wasn't that many lords that joined, but maybe next time we'll try a time that's more. I don't know. Maybe we'll cater to the Euros next time.
I think it's also the bear market. People can't be asked anymore.
People can't be asked. Well.
No, yeah, but definitely like I think probably like yeah. I mean, I'm not too sure what time is in America right now, but I think it's probably like maybe like 8 p.m. or around then. So, what time is in Australia?
It's 10 a.m. Saturday.
Oh.
Yeah, we're in the future. Yeah, but I mean, I don't mind. The early morning's good for me. That's when I'm most energized. If you get me late at night, I'll probably start slurring my words more than I normally do. So, there is it. Joseph, you said you were keen to look at the contracts, the combat. This is so it works like build a squad. I mean, just builds a squad. And the way the initiate attack works is like it gets your past realm data, then it unpacks the squad, which is using like this bitmap to like for compression. Then it emits an event that the combat started, then it inflicts, then the attacker tries to breach the wall, which is the serfs that I talked about. So they got some pitchforks. They don't do much, but they do a little bit. And then it runs this combat loop, which runs this attack step. There's where is it? Oh, I hit this one. And it like rolls a dice, and compares the defense and attack, and then like calculates a random number, rolls a dice, and then returns that as the hit points, and then basically applies those hit points to the troop, and then it cycles back and forth, then it starts again, and it just goes blah 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 blah, and just loops. Like you couldn't do this in the EVM, but this is also like the first. And then, like, if you kill a troop, sorry, I'm going pretty fast, but if you kill a troop, then they get zeroed out and they no longer exist. And so this is like the burn mechanism, basically, of the game. It's like build a troop, then your troop dies, and then those resources are done forever. But you can see here, like we've currently got attack, agility, defense, wisdom. But you know, we can make this more complicated in the future. But you know, this has been, you know, tricky to get going, to say the least. So we're just like, let's start simple and then make it more complicated as we go. I can go deeper into this or another time, but I don't think there's many Cairo devs on the call, so it's probably gibberish to a lot of people.
Yeah, we can have a dev chat soon.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other cues where you got us?
It's probably a good time to wrap it up. Hour 10 in.
All right. Well, yeah, we can set up here, and thanks everyone for coming, and until next time.
Good night, Lords. Thank you. Thank you for the chat.
Thanks for coming.
GM.